If you haven't subscribed already, please do. And you may get the full set. Horse Girl, Dog Boy, Giraffe Mother, and Dolphin Dad.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. I am Andy, and your man over there in the glasses, that is John. And we are here to do what we always do, which is discuss music. One of us will go off and listen to a song, then we'll come back and chop it up together. But in order for me to get started on the listening part of that whole equation, John, I'm going to need you to divulge what I'm listening to.
The band called Horse Girl.
Ooh, okay, Horsegirl. I've
Mm.
seen Horsegirl's name pop up here and there, never given them a go. Kind of similar to what we were talking about earlier with Slow Dive. It's like they popped up on suggested lists here and there, and I've yet to get around to it. So here we are. What is the name of the track?
It is Anti-Glory, and this is a live performance on good old KEXP.
Oh, KEXP. That's great.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, we all know what we're getting when we get into some KEXP. So I have some lofty expectations here. Let me go off and give Horsegirl and the song Anti-Glory a listen, and I will come back and let you know what I think. Yeah, I was waiting for confirmation on that, wanting them to pan into this young lady on the fender, get a little bit closer look, but it's definitely her that's playing this bass line on the guitar, which is interesting, and it instantly reminds me of like some of the stuff Jack White has done, particularly in the White Stripes, where and in some of his own stuff, uh, that he's using like a pedal with the octave turned down to create this bass sound on a traditional six-string guitar, which is cool stuff. Makes you wonder why for this track you could just pick up a bass, but regardless of that, it is cool to see it done again outside of like, a White Stripes or Jack White song. And I'm sure that there's others that have done this as well. The Black Keys come to mind too. But yeah, this is so far so really good. I mean, I'm liking this rocking steady drum beat that hit, this bass line that's now found its way into the song, and kind of that winding guitar that the other young lady is doing sounds really really good together. I mean, nothing dazzling or outside the box, but it is all just good. So let's see where it goes from here. This doesn't sound lo-fi, but it sounds like it's got like lo-fi sensibilities to it, if that makes sense. There's also kind of this like apathetic, almost slacker rock approach to the vocal delivery, which I appreciate. Growing up listening to the music in the '90s, there was plenty of acts out there that had that sound, and John and I have both talked about our affinity for that sort of time in music, and this the sort of charm that comes along with this approach to music. There's a little bit of a DIY kind of thing going on as well, but yeah, I like it. It's no frills, no filler, all just good shit, you know?
Dance, 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 dance.
I like the syncopation of this part.
Dance, 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 dance. Dance, 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 dance with me.
Cymbal work by the drummer is fabulous, and all this splashing and crashing and stuff sounds really, really good.
Slipping away, I call it up the downtown now. It's all around. That could be fun. That could be hard. Running down backwards. Turning away, can't make it out or out loud now. We'll go to the sound of the dance of the hall. Man, it's a golden boy and standing and no one at all. It is red, it's always up and down, man, and right counts to the never uptight.
That winding guitar. All right. Well, there was absolutely nothing pretentious about that song at all, which is nice. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love all the, the 8-minute tracks. We've given each other plenty of those over our time here on the channel, that have all these, changes and movements and, pedal twisting and all this stuff. And that stuff's great. I love it. I'll never not love it. But I'll never not love this either. Just this no frills. It's not pretentious. It's rock and roll. So I'm not left feeling like, oh my God, how did they do this? I'm left feeling like glad that they did. It's not anything that knocked me over, but it's still charming and sounds great. And this like level of comfort in writing what they want to and being good at what they write. It's like this kind of like keep it simple, stupid kind of approach to music that can be, that I think is evergreen. There'll always be room for songs and bands like this. And it honestly, there's some level of like hipness to that as well, for whatever reason, outside of all three of these young ladies looking pretty damn cool. There's just not a lot of like frills or any iota of like being pretentious to this music. So I really enjoyed it. Also, that last bit that they played, I know it wasn't the first time I heard it, but for some reason in that moment it made me think of Kings of Leon, like a much stripped back, less overproduced, polished Kings of Leon, but still that's kind of where it took me. I don't know why. I don't know what even song exactly. I'd have to listen to this a couple more times and then maybe go listen to some Kings of Leon to try to figure out, put my finger on it. But there's something there, I think, anyway. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. Again, it wasn't anything that like, broke the mold or was like, nothing I'd ever heard before, but it was just good indie rock music, with a dash of, like I said earlier, some lo-fi sensibilities, kind of this slacker rock approach to the vocal delivery, which is all stuff I'm super comfortable with and familiar with and enjoy. So why not enjoy this? Yeah, it was good stuff. Let's get back to John and learn more about Horsegirl.
Tinky Winky, he's back. So you've had to listen to Horsegirl via KEXP,
Yeah.
anti-glory. What do you make of it?
Well, obviously another great piece of work over there at KEXP. I have to say, it started off really interesting because I was trying to find where the hell the goddamn bass player was for about 10 seconds. It was nice, steady, rocking drum beat coupled with what sounds like bass work being played, but it is on a Fender guitar. And I'm wondering if she's using like a pedal with like the octave turned down to generate that sound. I think Jack White uses some sort of wah pedal where he messes with the octave shifter, and that's how he gets bass sounds out of some of the strings on his guitar when he's playing with White Stripes. And I think probably even when he's just done Jack White stuff. Go ahead.
I saw in the comments, and I'm not an expert, so I don't know, but there was two differing opinions, and someone had written, "Oh, she's using an alto bass, the bass same to what Peter Hook played in New Order and Joy Division." I don't know what that is, but I just saw 6 strings. Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it looked very much just like your standard Fender. But yeah, interesting stuff. I'd like to know as well. I'm just assuming the whole Jack White thing. Then we get this winding guitar motif that noodles its way over top the rhythm section of the song. The vocals join in, and we have this sort of apathetic kind of slacker rock vibe to the vocals. And she's soon joined by the other guitar. Well, really, it looks like they start together, but I can only really hear the girl on the Ibanez at first, and then you start to get the oohs and sort of things like that. These like vocalizing bits from the bass guitarist. So yeah, interesting stuff. Go. I'm sorry, were you gonna say something?
She is noted as the bass player.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. So makes you wonder why she just didn't get a bass. Maybe she plays guitar and some other bits. So she's joined the song shifts to this like interestingly syncopated portion where they repeat that word dance. I guess that's as close as that's the chorus, I would assume. And there's some noticeable like lo-fi sensibilities about this track. Almost like this DIY aspect to it that is charming and quite enjoyable, honestly, despite it being somewhat rudimentary. I mean, this isn't the most, mind-melting stuff done on any of the instruments, but it all is working together to create this thing that's very palatable and pleasant. So hats off to the drummer for the splashes and the rolls as the song progresses, I should say. This gives the song like life and movement, even when she's firmly fixed on the ride cymbal. It gives the song like legs. So I really enjoyed her work probably the most out of the three of them. And then just at the 2:30 mark, the song downshifts back into this bass forward sound from earlier as the guitar again winds its way over the top. And for some reason, this portion reminds me of like a far less polished Kings of Leon riff. And I don't know what it is about this riff that's taking me there, but that's where my head goes. And the song then comes to an end after a snappy rapping of the drums. And I think this is a good introduction to the band. I mean, I know I say that naively because this is all I've heard of them. But I think this is I would assume this is an excellent little snapshot of their sound and style. Presented in a very cleaned up fashion because it's KEXP, so it's going to be some of the best you're going to get, right? So there's little in the ways of frills and bells and whistles. They seem like they have no truck for pomp and circumstance, which I actually admire and find refreshing. It's just them and their instruments. And you watch this and you get an idea of the three members of the band, and it'd really be hard pressed to convince me that these are three pretentious individuals, and which is another thing that kind of ties into what I just said and another reason to admire them. And I think it's admirable that this kind of focus on basics that they have, that's where their attention is, on the basics of rock music. So while this didn't knock my socks off or leave me wondering how they did it, they did leave me feeling glad that they did it, which I think is important. Also, I didn't catch much, if any, of the lyrical content. So you're going to have to help me in that regard, though I can say that my inability to latch onto the lyrics didn't deter my enjoyment of the song as a whole. This is a pretty good tune. And again, probably a pretty good snapshot into who they are and what they sound like. At least I would assume so. And if it is who they are and what they sound like, pretty solid stuff.
Yeah, thank you for that. Interesting. Reason I picked these was when we got a couple of months ago, whatever it was, a viewer's request for Hello Mary. This brought this band to mind. And they're a relatively new band as well. So not a huge amount on them, but the thing I liked about this sound is clearly a sort of post-punk sound and pretty much the sort of purest, post-punk sound that I've heard for many a year that harkens back to that sort of early 80s sound. And it kind of reminded me in a different style of like the first Violent Femmes, the way they're very pure, where they just went for it in their particular groove. So yeah, Horsegirl formed in 2019 from Chicago, Illinois, which is in the United States of America. They're labeled as post-punk and indie rock. Personnel as Nora Cheng, guitar vocals, Penelope Lowenstein, bass vocals, and Gigi Reese, drums. I will say she's a bit of a fucking powerhouse without being overpowering. Really good drumming.
Yeah, exactly. That's
really
exactly
good
how
drumming.
it stood out to me as well.
Yeah. Really impressed with her. So this track is from their debut album. Now, you mentioned about pretensions. The only thing that is pretentious is the title of this album, which is Versions of Modern Performance, which was released in 2022. The album was actually written while the band members were still in high school.
Oh, wow.
And it was recorded in the summer of 2021. And the group cited influences for the album coming from Sonic Youth, Yola Tango, and Stereolab. I think there's a bit of Pixies in there as well. And others as well. I mean, Kings of Leon's not a stretch at all, actually. That sort of movement in the rhythm just reminds me of the first album of Kings of Leon as well. The album went down storm, got a Metacritic score of 82. It was named Album of the Week for Stereo Gum on its release, and it appeared in several year-end lists. It's a nice little thing in All Music, which sort of describes what they're going for, and what you and I have been kind of talking about. They make a good point here. They say there is a youthful sense of discovery and exploration in the way they mix and match genres, gleefully pureeing them into something familiar to anyone well versed in the history of indie rock, while at the same time reminding listeners about what makes the style so thrilling when done right. Instead of relying on tired tropes or plugging in influences wholesale, as many bands are wont to do, Horsegirl seemed to have swallowed them whole along the way to transcendence. The guitars are jagged and bright like Gang of Four, but this band doesn't sound like Gang of Four. They rely on shards of distortion and noise like My Bloody Valentine at their most abrasive, but Horsegirl aren't shoegazers. They take from the dreaminess of Yola Tango, the tenderness of the Pastels, and the lo-fi chug of Flying Nun groups, but it is impossible to pin the band down as imitators here either. The Flying Nun thing's a really good shout, actually, and you could get that in the way the guitar chugs along, and we've talked about them recently, that label, and the New Zealand bands from there. Interestingly enough, Steve Shelley and Lee Ronaldo from Sonic Youth appear on 2 tracks of the album, which must have fucking delighted those, wow. So Steve Shelley's drums and Lee Ronaldo's guitar with screwdriver and drumsticks jammed in and things like that. Anyway, actually his solo stuff's really, really nice and quite melodic. Lyrics starts off, ooh, slipping away, I call it up and downtown. Now feeling up is following me round. And you get her saying certain words, bass player, with me, please. In the back of the barn, in the back of the yard, in the front of the town, in the back where it's far. She sings dance, turning away, can't make it out or out loud. Now feeling for a flow through the town with me, please. From the dance in the hall to the planet's control, for the boy and his band, and on no one at all. She sings, and I dance to you. In and out grey, it's always up or down, left, right. There's nothing I can do. Accounting for the never uptight. And then they go into dance, 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 dance with me. So yeah, it's basically it's a 12-inch remix of Boogie Wonderland. Anyway, and then kind of repeat it again. Down, slipping away, I call it up and downtown. Now the feeling up is following me around. In the back of the barn, in the back of the yard, in the front of the town, in the back where it's far. Turning away, can't make it out or out loud. Now feeling for a flow through the town. From the dance in the hall to the planet's control, for the boy and his band, and on no one at all. In grey, it's always up or down, left, right, accounting for the never uptight. So yeah, interesting there. So she kind of like, as you say, quite apathetically goes through. But I just love the twang of the guitar's really nice on this. I mean, as you say, you know, it's obviously is nothing new, but it's the way they approach it and what they bring is just really satisfying, I think.
Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah. So the band themselves, they headlined a tour in Europe and the UK. As you can imagine, would have gone down. This obviously would go down a storm, probably more in the UK and Europe than it would in mainland America. They did tour in the States during the summer of 2022. The band performed at Lollapalooza for the first time then as well. And then in September 23, Horsegirl opened for the Breeders on their Last Splash 30th anniversary tour for a few dates in the Midwest, which must have delighted them as well, because I imagine she would be a big Kim Deal fan. Their second album, Phonetics On and On, is due for release on Valentine's Day 2025.
Oh,
so we shall wait and see in just like, 3 or 4 weeks or by the time this drops in about a week, see what that sounds like. They have released a couple of tracks off there, and they have definitely moved on a step in their style. It's different. Yeah.
Different good.
I reserve judgment. I think it's different. I just sort of need to let it percolate.
Okay.
This, like, straight away from the top, but it's simple.
Yeah.
Not so much the other
well,
stuff.
I mean, even
so we'll
as
see.
the writer kind of described, and this happens so many times with young bands on their first album. It's like the finding yourself exploration album.
Yeah.
And then you sort of like graduate in different ways on every album thereafter, and so the sound changes, and and if you like it, you like it, and if not, you don't. But it is interesting how bands like this do this. They're in this sort of phase, this metamorphosis phase, where they like their first album their sound can be so much different as their next works come out. So yeah, I'll be interested to hear a little bit more of this era of them, and then hold it up against whatever comes out on Valentine's Day to see kind of the difference.
Yeah. I mean, you compare it to something like, old school back in the day, even before our time, 60s, bands would fucking hone their sound over a period of 2, 3, 4, 5 years of playing live, and then hit the record deal away. And then bands nowadays can hit a record deal before they've ever even played a gig.
Yeah.
It's a big difference. So no wonder there's a development, because going into studio for the first time has really opened up your mind as to possibilities of difference in sound. And then go on from there, experimenting. And you can do it at home now as well, so much easier than Buddy Holly and the Crickets had to just go out there and knock down the doors until they got the deal. Yeah, interesting. Okay, I shall wrap things up. Thanks for listening to this, Andy. Folks on there, tell us what you think. If you do like this, hit the like button. Drop some comments about this. Anyone else who knows Horsegirl, and tell us what you think of this album. If you're watching this after the second album has been released, tell us what that's like. We'd love to hear from you. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. and you may get the full set: Horse Girl, Dog Boy, Giraffe Mother, and Dolphin Dad. There's plenty more to collect, actually. That being said, thanks again so much for watching. I will see all of you on the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.